What's up, everybody? I wanted to make a little video here, first video on this channel, but I wanted to make a video about some observations, some thoughts that I took away from a recent class that I took, which was Rifle 1, Warrior Poet Society. I took that 2 weeks ago over in Dalton, Georgia, and just some things that were kind of like lessons learned, not as in things I learned from the training, but things I learned about being prepared for a class. So kind of aiming this video at someone who's like me. That was the first formal class that I've ever taken, and some things to be properly prepared for the class. So let's get into it. I don't want to drag this video out too much. I'm not going to talk again about the class. I'm not reviewing the class itself. If you want to know my opinions on that, yes, it's worth it, 100%. And that's coming from somebody who, and again, I'm not trying to brag here, but I have a shooting range here in my backyard. I can go down here, like 100 yards away from me is a shooting range. I can go down here and shoot whenever I want. Not trying to be bragging about that. I'm just saying I have a lot of experience shooting, especially AR-15s, so even me, as what I would consider myself a seasoned shooter, I still think I took a lot away from the class. So anyway, getting into it, the first thing that I wanted to mention is don't underestimate the weather. I've got myself a little cheat sheet here so I don't forget. Don't underestimate the weather. I looked at the weather forecast ahead of time. Obviously, the forecast was lower to mid 70s, partly cloudy, and decent humidity. And I was like, wow, gonna be a nice day. I soon found out that 73, 74 degrees on a shooting range, even with lower humidity, with the sun beating down on us, because it was supposed to be partly cloudy, but it wound up being mostly sunny. The sun beating down on us, it was in my opinion very hot. Both instructors, I noticed this, had on long-sleeved hooded sun shirts, and I found out why, because I got sunburnt. My neck got sunburnt, my throat area right here got sunburned, my arms got sunburnt, not too bad. And I am one of the only people that I seen in the class actually put on sunscreen. I brought sunscreen with me. Right around lunchtime, mid-morning, I quickly sprayed some on my neck and stuff, my ears, my nose. I had a hat on, just a ball cap, but I was burning. By mid-morning, I was getting sunburnt. And I was the only person in the class. The class was 18 people. I was the only person I seen put on sunscreen at all. Some people may have put it on at lunchtime, but don't underestimate the weather. Be prepared. That's something that's probably the biggest thing I took away from it. I did not think that, being directly in the sun all day, it was going to be that hot. It was very hot. That'll tie into having food and water, something I'll mention here in a minute. But be prepared to protect yourself from the sun. So that was huge. I ordered some sun shirts because I'm going to another course in a couple weeks. I have some sun shirts now, a boonie type hat that has a bill all the way around. Things to think about. The sun, it was rough. It was rough, and it was hot, even in the mid 70s. So if it was 90 plus degrees outside, I don't see how you stand it to do a training, because it was a full day of training. It's action packed. You have just a little bit of time of classroom instruction in the morning, and then you're on the range. And when you're on the range, you're shooting. And when you're not shooting, you're jamming magazines, you're loading magazines. I'll talk about that in a few minutes. But you're loading mags, you're drinking water. Other than that, you're shooting. It's not a lot of downtime. It's not like you're standing around doing nothing. You're always doing something. So second thing I want to touch on is going to be gear. Now let's talk about food. No, food and snacks. I want to talk about food and snacks. I meant to get sandwich supplies the day before, and I got sidetracked with some things and wound up forgetting to buy some sandwich supplies. So the morning of, when I was driving over there, I was like, oh, maybe we'll have an hour for lunch. I don't know. They don't specify. Maybe I'll have an hour for lunch break. I'll run out and get something. I was like, nah, better be safe and stop. So I stopped at a gas station. I picked up some basically egg biscuits that morning. And I tell you what, I'm glad that I had that, because at lunchtime, when we broke at lunchtime, we broke at 12 o'clock sharp for lunch. And we had 30 minutes. He's like, you got 30 minutes, 30-minute lunch break, starting back in 30 minutes. And so I walked up to my truck where it was parked, sat in the truck, took my shirt off to let it dry out in the air conditioning a little bit. While I was eating lunch in my truck, I cranked it, turned on the air full blast because it was hot. By lunchtime, I was hot. And like I said, I'd already sunburnt at this point. I was already sweating. So I'm sitting there eating lunch, and then so I took about 15-20 minutes to eat my lunch, and then I went back down so I could use the bathroom and load mags. I'll talk about loading mags here in a minute. It's something I wanted to touch on. But you know, so basically, if you don't take something to eat, then plan on not eating, because you got 30 minutes for lunch, so you don't have time to run out and get something. Bring your lunch with you. As far as snacks, those are kind of optional in my opinion. I didn't eat any snacks in the morning or the afternoon. I just ate lunch at lunchtime. I didn't see anybody else eating snacks like protein bars or anything. But bring your lunch. If you don't bring your lunch, plan on not eating. You don't have time to go get something. Water, huge. I want to touch on that. I brought 2 liters of water in 1 liter bottles. So I had 2 1-liter water bottles. That got me by. I also, just to give the whole story, I brought 1 sweet tea that I drank with lunch and 2 Sprite Zero Sugars, just because I like soft drinks. I drank 1 of those in the morning on the way over there, 1 on the way home. 2 liters of water got me through, but really I would suggest bringing 3 liters of water in individual liter containers. Why do I say individual liter containers? I'm going to tie into one of my other points, which is gear. I took a battle belt setup, which has 1 pistol mag holder, 2 rifle mags, a dump pouch, pistol holster, and a knife. The reason I say that is I would recommend bringing a dump pouch. I think that's very handy. In my job that I do every day, I wear a tool belt, and one of the things that I have on my tool belt is basically a dump pouch. It's a big open container right back here so that I can just shove stuff in, you know. So I knew the importance of that, and the great thing about that, happy accident, Bob Ross style, having the dump pouch was great, because when we would jam magazines, load magazines, we'd go back out there, he'd say, bring 5 mags, bring at least 4 or 5 mags. We'd go back up to the firing line. I had 1 liter bottle of water in my dump pouch, and magazines in there with it, and 2 mags in my side mag pouches, and 1 in the gun. I'll make a video about the gear I took later on, but not to get too far into it, but I think a dump pouch is the way to go. I think it's a great idea. The one I have is the Maxpedition. They call it the roly-poly. I like it because when you open it up, it keeps its form. Again, I don't want to get sidetracked talking about gear, but a dump pouch is huge because it allows you to keep your water on you. First thing in the morning when we were down at the range after we zeroed and stuff, I didn't bring water down there with me in my dump pouch. I was like, I'll just come back up to the shed and get some water whenever we take a break. No big deal. Well, we were down there and I was getting hot and I was getting thirsty. And I was like, dang, I wish I had my water in my dump pouch. That way I could just, while he's doing some instruction, showing you how to clear a malfunction, if someone had a malfunction, I could get it out, take some sips of water, keep myself hydrated. So I think 1 liter bottles of water in your dump pouch, big thing. All right, moving on, because again, I don't want this, I'm already on 9 minutes here. I don't want this to be a really long video. Just want to hit the high points. Let's go ahead and talk about gear. So magazine pouches, again, like I said, I would have obviously 1 mag in the gun. I had 2 mags on my belt, 2 30-round mags, and then I had mags in the dump pouch. I think that's a great setup. I think you should follow that setup. You have to have at least 1 magazine on your belt. But if you don't have that beautiful, beautiful dump pouch, you're going to be like everybody else that I've seen, or not everybody else, but a lot of people at the class who were they would have one mag on their belt and a magazine carrier, one in the gun, and then they had like 4 mags in their hand. They're trying to walk back down to the firing line, and they're dropping them. They're trying to carry a bottle of water. That dump pouch is the way to go. Take a dump pouch. Gloves, huge thing. Wanted to touch on gloves. After lunch, I believe it was mid-afternoon, we were doing bill drills, basically 6 round bill drills, and we were split up into two-person teams. I was split up with a girl that was shooting next to me. Brianna was her name, and it was, again, sunny and hot. And if you know anything about AR-15s, I've shot enough to know that they get hot. So we're doing bill drills, and that son of a gun is getting warm. Now, I had my gloves on. I have some mechanics gloves. She didn't have any gloves on. I asked her at one point, I was like, is that forehand getting pretty warm? And she's like, yeah, I can barely touch it. Bring gloves. Highly recommend you bring gloves. AR-15s, when you do rapid fire, they get hot. They really do. So bring you some gloves. Ammunition, I want to touch on this. Big thing here I did want to touch on with ammo. This will be the last thing I think that I talk about. The website says to bring 500 rounds, 5 magazines preloaded, 500 rounds of ammo. I would recommend bringing like at least 550 to 600 rounds. By the end of the day, I had to borrow a few rounds, like 10, 15 rounds to top off a mag, because there's no set round count. Like when you're doing ready ups, or they'll have you just kind of shooting, they'll have the line hot and everybody's shooting, and they will be going back and forth, and they will instruct people if they see someone that needs some instruction. And there's no round count to what you're doing. So, you know, like if you're doing bill drills, you know, when you're sitting there from a, if you're sitting there from a, you know, a ready position and you're doing bill drills, it's not like, okay, do a bill drill, shoot 50 rounds and do bill drills. It's not like that. It's, if you're, the better of a shooter you are, the more ammunition you're going to expend. And by the end of the day, I was like, does anybody care if I bum a few rounds? And, you know, so I had to borrow some rounds. So I would recommend bringing about 550, I think would be plenty to get you by. 550, 600, depending on your skill level as a shooter. Another huge thing, and I'm going to end off with this, is the way you store your ammo. I loaded 5 magazines upon arrival, obviously, and the other ammunition that I had out of the 500 rounds, I still had in 20 round boxes. I took Hornady Frontier ammo, so it was in 20 round boxes. I would highly recommend having some sort of a small ammo can or something, and having that ammo loose in there, because whenever we're stuffing magazines, we're trying to jam mags. He's like, all right, everybody, you got 3 minutes. Top off your mags, get back out here. And trying to load 5, 6 magazines in 3 minutes, you're kind of under the gun. And it would have been much more handy and useful to, instead of having those rounds in 20 round boxes, which I had to open the box every time and dump the box out, to just have it loosely in an ammunition can. Highly recommend you just bring the rest of your ammo, what's not in the 5 mags, just loose in an ammo can. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I would also recommend real quick to, and I know this from having a piece of land out here with trails on it that I hike sometimes, I know how heavy stuff can get. I would recommend, you know, keeping your gun pretty lightweight, as lightweight as possible. Like if you're not shooting night vision, don't have a night vision laser on your gun. You know, I didn't shoot suppressed. This is the gun that I took to the class. It was my 16-inch LMT MRP, and all I have on it is a really lightweight Enforced WML and a lightweight red dot. This exact setup, this sling, this gun is what I took to the class. Again, I'll talk more about gear later on. Don't want this to be a gear video, but just keep it lightweight, because the first thing that we did after confirming 0 was ready up drills from the low ready, and it was over and over. And my shoulder was burning by the time that was over. And I work out, and my shoulder was tired. So if they were like instructing somebody, or there was a little lull, in between Paul calling, stand by, you know, fire, I was like this, oh God, my shoulder, you know, shaking it out, my shoulder was burning. So I would recommend keeping it lightweight. But those are some points, some takeaways that I think I definitely learned from those things, and just hope it helps somebody out there. If one of you guys are going to go take a class, I'm sure this would apply to Warrior Poet Society, obviously, but I'm sure that some of this would cross over and be good advice no matter what, you know, company you're training with or anything like that. So I hope this video helped you out. Thanks for watching. I'll be making more videos. I'll make gear videos about what gear I took, what worked, what didn't, things like that. Yeah, I appreciate you watching. Have a good day. I'll see you in the next video.